collaboration among female legislators in the West African region under the aegis of ECOWAS Female Parliamentarians Association, is currently working to provide support for women politicians during the COVID-19 pandemic. This initiative draws copiously from the idea of an ECOWAS parliament, with Nigeria as the operational and logistical arrowhead, and which has been able to make substantial breakthroughs in conflict resolution among the 16 member states of ECOWAS. We'll now be speaking with Senator Biodun Olujimi, who is second vice president of this association and a former minority leader of the Nigerian Senate. Among other issues, we'll also be talking to her about what exactly this regional collaboration intends to achieve beyond statements of intent and against the backdrop of long-standing political limitations and stereotypes. How does the association intend to fulfill its goals in the short, medium, and long terms? Should the association be concerned only with the welfare of female politicians? And what about gender suppression and harmful practices such as circumcision, underage marriage, and a growing culture of rape and stigmatization of victims, which continue to be a problem at the grassroots in the West African region? We'll also take up on issues, local politics issues, including a long-running battle with former Governor Ayo Fayose for the control of the PDP, People's Democratic Party's machinery in Ekiti State. Good morning, Senator Olujimi, and thank you for joining us on the morning show. Good morning.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
Yes, long time. You're welcome to the morning show. But very quickly, before we talk about the parliamentary West African ECOWAS Female Parliamentarians Association, let's start with some topical issues in Nigeria. Edo State. Yesterday, we all saw what happened in Edo State with the governor deploying a renovation team to remove the roof of the house. The 14 lawmakers who had not been sworn in, who were in hiding in Abuja, suddenly showing up and convening a session of the House of Assembly at an undisclosed location. And then they got sworn in by the deputy clerk, and now they claim that they're the authentic version. All of this against the background of the forthcoming September 19 gubernatorial election and the conflict between the APC and the PDP, and also between the two main candidates and some other parties to that conflict. Well, I mean, you have been a minority leader. You are a highly experienced parliamentarian. What is going on in Edo State? Is it normal? Can Parliament sit in an undisclosed location and take decisions on behalf of the people?
Definitely what is happening in Edo State is very abnormal. And there's no doubt that issues like this had happened in the past, and nothing concrete was done to ensure that they were properly placed. And that is how we are advancing. A country that sits on injustice and sees nothing about it allows it to fester, and that is where we are. Because these people had seen it happen elsewhere, and nothing happened to those who perpetrated it, they have continued here. For me, the Edo situation is very pathetic, because from the onset, something went wrong, and went wrong completely. Because whether you like it or not, a sitting governor should have the offer of first refusal. And if the sitting governor does not have that offer, then it becomes as clearly messy as it is right now. And trying to salvage it has brought all this on. I believe no legislature can sit outside of their place, of their designated place of sitting. It's like the Senate sitting in the house of the Senate president. I mean, it will make sense. And people cannot just come and override the system. I am not saying one person is right and the other is wrong, but I'm saying we should do what is right. And what is right is that the House of Assembly should be put in proper shape. The people should go in there and should be allowed to work.
Senator, in 2019, the Senate and the House of Reps at different times tried to intervene, actually tried to take over the Edo State House of Assembly, but that was quickly rebuffed by the governor, and who eventually ended up in court, and the court said he could not reissue a proclamation. But looking at the crisis at the moment, we now have a situation where there are parallel State House of Assembly, whether it's illegal or not. Does this situation now warrant the Senate invoking its supervisory roles to take over a State House of Assembly?
Of course, I'm sure the National Assembly will look at it, but unfortunately we're on a kind of recess. But I know the National Assembly is still working. I believe that from today, the National Assembly management will start sitting. The principal officers will have to sit to look at this Edo situation and give us a solution to it. Because you see, it's the legislature, and we can't afford for it to go down the drains. Edo has been particularly volatile, and the time to look at it holistically is now, so that we can proffer solutions that will be enduring. Right now, the confusion is very, very unnerving, especially knowing that down the line, in just a few months, the elections will take place. In the past, it didn't matter because there was no election. But now there's an election. This should not happen. I mean, the National Assembly will do something in a few days.
Right. I'd like to talk about Ekiti, and I'd like to talk about the PDP in Ekiti and you and Mr. Ayofayose.
Go ahead. I'll take what I can.
Yeah, so the tussle going on between you and Mr. Ayofayose.
Talks.
The tussle going on between you.
I don't know about that. Oh, the tussle.
Yeah,
okay.
The tussle going on between you and Mr. Ayofayose.
There's really no tussle. What is happening is that there is a misconception. The misconception is that one person owns the party and that the other person is trying to wrestle the party from the owner. But that is not the situation. A situation that is on ground is that everybody, including the most lowly person in the party, joins as freely as possible. I mean, it's free entry and free exit. And so no one owns the party. Yes, there are people who are established in the party that are part of the management team. And that is the issue. As a former Governor Fayose happens to be one of those. But precluding every one of us from that management team is the major issue on the front burner. He had a misconception that I wanted to take over leadership from him because I became a minority leader, and then I am the only one standing in Ekiti State. But you see, leadership is earned. It's not foisted on anyone. And I believe that is what we do that will make people believe in us. What happened was that some people came together and decided that they wanted a new leadership. I am not one to compel anyone. They came and said, lead us. We want a breath of fresh air. We want a new beginning. We want something done. We want inclusiveness. And so we started a movement. The movement gathered too much momentum, and it looked like it was eroding the grounds under which the other people on the other side were standing. And that is the former governor's men. And so it became a tussle, and that's the bottom line. Then we had Congress. Of course, if we hold the Congresses 100 times, the repositioning group, which is the group that I and some others, I am not the only one, are leading, will win 100%. So we had a Congress, and the Congress was marred with irregularities. Can you imagine that I struggled to get my mandate back and went back to the Senate, and then one person will decide that he owns all my 6 local governments and will write the list of all the ward executives of my local governments. I thought that was not on. You know, because people treat you, they treat my gender as if you are a woman, and they believe that you don't have what it takes to fight. But then we're just resilient, we're just quiet fighters. I will not take that.
Well,
and none of the people who believe in me will allow that to happen.
Senator, we'll still come back to
the
politics of Ekiti State, because there are issues there. But I want us to still stay a little bit more with what is going on in Edo State. How do you think that the crisis in that state can be resolved? Will it require the intervention of the President of Nigeria, for example? You have said the National Assembly will play a role, but we've seen in the past moves by the National Assembly being rebuffed by the gladiators in that state. In this kind of situation, what do you think can be done in the best interest of the people of Edo State, who seem to be just pawns in this game of impunity and political rascality?
I think there has to be a collaboration of sorts. The National Assembly and the executive must sit together and find a solution to it. I mean, this brigandage is just impossible. And Edo State has been at the epicenter of all of this. It's unfortunate, especially because we have very serious-minded people from that axis. They should have been able to take precautions over time on these issues. But since they have not been able to, the National Assembly must sit with the executive, and they must come together to find a lasting solution to this Edo issue, so that the elections can hold and we can have credible elections. What I foresee is too much violence if we go on this way. And because everyone will want to fight for his shirt, and that is not the best in the circumstance. We have a pandemic on our hands. We're trying to balance our acts. The health sector is not the best. We're just balancing. The economy is going down the drain. And now, Edo, there has to be a collaborative effort that will get it done. And it's not like when government will sit back and just watch. We can't afford that any longer. We want a government that will be up and doing and will do something quickly on this issue.
Senator, some have said, the root cause of all of this is the kind of politics that will play. The politics of largesse, Godfatherism. I mean, you have gone through the process of elections in Nigeria, and we have that election upcoming in Edo State, September 19th. To your mind, what does electability mean in Nigeria? And do you agree that truly this is what is playing out in Edo State? The politics of Godfatherism, the politics of largesse, and not, the politics of what truly it is for the people to have the fruits of democracy?
It's been the problem of our democracy. Our democracy has not been properly anchored on ideology. And that is where we miss it all the time. And you find people just being able to move freely from one to the other. I mean, a party that said one person was the best, now the person is now the worst. I mean, it doesn't stand to reason. The time has come for us to be honest about electioneering and about our democracy. When you hold out a person's hand and ask people to vote for him, and you say things about him, you must be able to stand by that thing, come rain, come shine. You must allow the people to take their own decision on that person. The problem is, these godfathers want all of us to always listen to them, to always toe their line. And that is not about democracy. Godfatherism is about support for the candidate and support from without. Support maybe in voter education, in mobilization, in financial situations. Not support in insisting that this person that is your own is the one that should be the candidate or the one that should be voted for. The people, the ordinary people who want democracy to thrive should be able to decide who they want. The time has come for us to play this politics properly. You find godfathers wanting only their own. It can't work. And it can't work going down the line. We should be of age by now as democratic tenets are concerned. But we just we take a step forward and 10 steps backwards. If a man, a few years back, 3.5 years back, said, you cannot vote for this man, why will you want to change now and ram that person down the throats of the average Edo man? I mean, I am part Edo because my mother is Edo. So I don't believe that this trauma they are going through is necessary at all. And it is only because we are not honest in our dealings as Democrats. And the time to hold people to democratic tenets is now. We must start with Edo and ensure that the votes of the ordinary people count and they're able to determine who they want to govern them.
Okay, thank you for that. I'd like to talk about this. There's another thing called, maybe I coined it, the politics of the center, the federal might. We keep hearing this all the time. It said that the police officers that came to Edo yesterday were from the center, the federal, might. They had meetings. There were pictures, alleged pictures of these meetings, and they came there to the National Assembly yesterday. Is it every time, especially in a state where there might be an opposition, that we are so quick to favor, certain political leanings and bring in this federal might into it? A lot of people have called for state police, but is this not the time? All of a sudden, before you know it, they call the center, and something is done about policing in the state. Maybe this might just be the time to bring in state police. Maybe this will not happen. But other people too fear that even if you bring in state police, this too will happen. You have the governor of that state now commandeering the police force and all of that. So what will be the fate of the police in all of this?
I think the best thing for all of us is for us to hold true to our laws. The police force is not supposed to favor any side in any issue. Unless we hold the police force to what their act says, we will still be running foul of everything that we talk about. If you bring in the state police, there won't be any opposition in that state. There is no doubt about that. Except we now start listening to ourselves and talking about enforcement. Our problem in Nigeria is not the dearth of laws. We have laws, but we're not able to enforce any. Why will the police take sides, for instance? It doesn't make sense. The police should listen to both sides and be the arbiter, just like the courts. But then, if you now start segregating and start ensuring that it gets worse, then we will have more problems than we can manage. We are too deep into, except it is my party, except it is me, nothing will happen. But the time has come for us to allow the ordinary people to determine who they want to govern them, whichever party that is. What each party needs to do is the right thing. Campaign. Do what is right for the people. Give them programs that they can relate to. Allow them to pick the person that is best suited for what they want. The minute you keep arm twisting, this will continue. And law enforcement agents must be held on to their laws. They cannot take sides. Taking sides means you are already political, and they are not supposed to be. I think the society must start talking about that now. We must put it on the front burner. Civil society should start talking about it. How do we hold these people to their own laws? Let them just be impartial so that every one of us can do what is right. The key thing is to do what is right, to hold on to our constitution, to ensure that our laws are obeyed. And that, I believe, is the way to go.
Very good point, Senator. But let's now go back to Ekiti State. I'm sure many of our viewers would want to hear more from you about where exactly you stand now in Ekiti politics. I asked that question because there have been insinuations that you are very close to the governor, Governor Fayemi, whereas you are not close to former Governor Fayoshe, who was once your boss, and that you are not necessarily on good terms with Senator Adeyeye, whom you had to replace in the Senate. All of these issues. And, former Governor Fayoshe says that you are a frustrated politician who wants to seize control of the party, and it's because he has not allowed you. That's why you are fighting him, because he says you are interested in the next gubernatorial election in that state in 2022. Is that true? You have also responded. You say that it's very fetish, that he goes about administering oath. So where exactly do you stand in all of this? And are you running in 2022?
Let me clear all this. It's very amusing that an ordinary me can be perceived in such a way. There is nothing that says I can't participate in the gubernatorial elections. No, nothing. I have paid my dues. I have done what I'm supposed to do in Ekiti. And I believe I am eminently qualified to participate. Don't forget that I participated in the last one when he insisted that it was only his candidate that could run. So that is settled. For Senator Adeyeye, he was in my party and a good ally of mine. But he left and went to the APC. And he's still there up until now. So there is really no relationship. However, when it comes to the issue of Ekiti and wanting to wrestle power, I don't think a governor that has done 8 years should be so preoccupied with wrestling power from an ordinary person who has not been a governor before. The bottom line is simply that if you did well, you will not wrestle at all. Governor Fayoshe I worked with, and I had great respect for. How did we lose it? He needs to answer that to be able to find a way through that. For me, I am PDP to the core. He tries to brand me APC because I work well with people, especially Mrs. Fayemi, who we meet at UN and several forums, and who I see as a leading light in gender issues. We differ when it comes to politics, and I am a dyed-in-the-wool PDP. But you see, the easiest thing for people to do is to play to the gallery and say you're working with the opposition. I am saying to you, I have not had an opportunity to sit with Governor Fayemi in the last 5 years, maybe when he was minister once. We've not had the opportunity to sit. Yes, when things happen in Ekiti, I send messages. That is the best. And when things are going wrong, I try to correct it. What they want is the kind of opposition where you wake up every morning, you are abusing people. I am not caught in that fabric at all. For me, I want an opposition that is very deliberate, very succinct, knows what it's doing, and has a focus. And if they had allowed us to play the role of opposition properly, we would have sat down and had a strategy. But a situation where the boys of Governor Fayose will go on air and start maligning everybody, including me, and saying all sorts of things, all derogatory, plastering lies on people. I will never be part of that. And that is why I have pulled back. The pulling back is what they call being part of the opposition. I will never be party to that. I will never leave the issue and attack the person. I will never do that. And that's what they are doing. They're attacking individuals. I won't be part of that. When we come back to what it should be, we will start playing opposition the way it should be, looking at all the happenings in the state and ensuring that we put them in proper perspective. As for wanting to wrestle power, what is it about wrestling power? Our constitution is very clear. The former governor is a former governor. I am currently a sitting senator. What is wrong in the former governor asking everyone to come together and work together in all that we have to do? Must he always be at the center of everything? And that is the issue.
I hate to interrupt you, but we have to go on a quick break, and we'll be right back to discuss some more, especially about women wrestling power on the continent. Join us again. Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. We still have with us from our Abuja studios, Senator Biodun Olujimi, the former minority leader of the 8th Senate. Thank you so much for staying with us, Senator. And let me ask you about the work of the ECOWAS Female Parliamentarian Association. Tell us about the efforts this association has been making to increase female participation in politics and governance in West Africa, and the results so far. How successful has that been?
Well, the group was put together by the ECOWAS Parliament so that at least the gender issues permeating the entire West Africa could be at least put in proper perspective. And that is what the group has been doing. What we have done is to sensitize politicians across the states, the nations, and to ensure that at every time they have females who can at least manage the others within the political circles in all participating states. What we have done is to arrange seminars and symposia in all the states. We have also put ourselves together within ECOWAS because this is the time we have the least number. But usually we would have about 28, 30 women that belong in the group. And it was easy for us to segment ourselves and ensure that in every of our states we participate in the political happenings within each nation. Right now, what we're doing is to ensure that wherever there are elections during this pandemic, we do a lot of sensitization. We talk to election management bodies on what to do, especially as far as women are concerned. As you know, this pandemic is engendered. It affects mostly women, not in the infections, but in the aftermath of the pandemic. Right now, the women are the ones staying at home, tendering after the children, and of course the men, because of the quarantine and because children are out of school. So we're trying to see how those who are going to participate in electioneering, in campaigns, online campaigns, in ensuring that the gender number does not go down. We sensitize them, we talk to them, we pull them in the line of ensuring that no gender is left behind, especially the female gender that accounts for the greatest number in the continent.
Right. I just want to go further on that point by, talking about your political plight. Would you say all of this in Ekiti is happening to you because you're a woman? And secondly, how can we have many more bright, great young Ekiti ladies, become like a Senator Biodun Olujimi in the future? Because we want more,
Biodun
Olujimi, beg your pardon, in the future, because we want more female participation in Ekiti states and in other states of the Federation.
Yeah, I'm sure the kind of things that are happening to me are part of the things that are preventing more women in the political spheres. The truth is, people treat us as if we're second-hand citizens. But we have shown them that we can never be second-hand citizens. We are capable. We have capacity. We can do much more without making too much noise about it. And the only problem we have is that women are not coming in the numbers that they should. And when they come, the men seem to put them under their wings. And they also always believe they have more comfort coming from there than a person of their ilk superseding over them. But you see, people have now come to know that with capacity, a woman can lead. Why did the majority of the people in PDP ask that I should join one or two others and lead them? It is because they believe this is the time for us to encourage women to do this and to push them forward. And we're doing it, and we're doing it right, by not making too much noise, by ensuring that we are focused on the issues, not on persons, not on individuals, not being unduly acrimonious. And that, I believe, is the way we can get more women. More women need to come into the political parties, come to replace us. For instance, I need people. I need 6, 7 people who can be there for me to say, okay, when I vacate, this person has the necessary wherewithal to take over. But the women are not as many as the men, and that is a major issue. We're trying. ECOWAS is trying a lot. All the CSOs are doing their level best. Most people are just sitting behind because they see us being plastered from every corner, and they don't believe they should be in that one of those that should really be so treated. And the time people start treating us well has come. If you know what they do in Ekiti, the other group, they talk to us like we are not human beings, and that is not right. I mean, even in the Yoruba setting, you cannot do that to people, to human beings, not to talk of people who are leaders, people who are supposed to be your elders. But until we're able to change this mindset and able to tell people that proper upbringing is also a panacea for good governance, we wouldn't have done well. And I believe we will still keep trying. The name of the game is advocacy, like ECOWAS is doing. ECOWAS is at the forefront of advocacy, ensuring that people know that female rights are human rights, ensuring that gender is put on the front. It's very important to be on the front burner, because wherever we are, the society benefits. And the society is car and properly handled wherever a woman is in charge.
Well, Senator, I'm aware that ECOWAS has a gender policy. It even has a gender development center. And the focus is on gender equality and empowerment. Now, as Vice President of the ECOWAS Female Parliamentarians Association, what kind of conversation are you having with your colleagues? Do you have among yourselves in terms of the best strategy to adopt to increase female representation in politics within the region? You've talked about advocacy, you've talked about sensitization. How about legislation? And I asked that question because you have had an experience in that regard when you pushed the gender equality bill, which your male colleagues practically shut down. I understand you've represented the bill now with slight amendments, but what kind of conversation are female parliamentarians having in terms of how they can be more influential from the perspective of legislation?
Thank you very much. The truth is, we are ensuring that all the conventions are domesticated in all the states. And we've had several states doing that. And they are really doing great. And they are increasing the numbers since they tried it. I don't want to mention, but definitely, Nigeria is lagging behind in all of this. And the reason is simple. We have not been able to domesticate many of those conventions that we're signatories to. And it's a major problem. Why agree to do things when you know that you are not going to keep the faith? And that is the reason for bringing up the Gender and Equal Opportunities Bill. Let me say to you that in ECOWAS, we're partnering with the UN Women, with other international organizations, the RI, the India, to ensure that we take this to all the other states and that we ensure that even in Nigeria, something is done about it. Right now, we're looking at the Gender and Equal Opportunities Bill. We're trying to rename it. We're trying to take out all those issues that they believe are contentious. Because the truth is, if you don't legislate on these things, they will never get done. Even the ones you have legislated upon, have they been done? Not to talk of the ones that you are just believing that people will partner with you and do the needful. So there is need for legislation. When we have legislation, then we can have the ECOWAS Parliament hold people on to what they are, to the legislation. And that is the best way to go. And that is what we're doing as a parliament to ensure that all the states domesticate, and then we now ask the parliament to enforce legislation.
Well, Senator, let's talk about that bill, which you first introduced in March 2016 and you have reintroduced now. What are the compromises you're making for the reintroduction, and how optimistic are you this time around that you will get that bill passed?
Well, like I said, we're looking at it again. Mm-hmm. The truth is, the contentious issues were not many. One, some people were talking about child marriage. They were asking that no age should be put to marriage. Two, people were talking about widowhood. And they believe that the religious practices in widowhood differ from one religion to the other. But I ask, how do we legislate for the ordinary woman who is not bogged down by religion or cultural practices? However, we must be able to take all these things into contention. So what we're doing now is looking at those things, whether you like it or not. There are just very few women in that Senate, even in this Senate. And we need to at least placate the men that are there. They know what is right. Most of them have girls as children. And they know that if we don't do something for them, the future is not too clear. And except we do it, those children will ask us in the future, what did you do to safeguard our situation? And they believe we should do it, but they don't know how to come out of their shell and say, this is it. So we're trying to help them by ensuring that we minimize the contentious issues, and then we can put it back there, and hopefully, we will do advocacy and it will pass. But we must do something for gender. We must do something for women. There is no doubt that we're half of the population of West Africa. We're half of the population of Nigeria. And you cannot wish away the better parts of the society, because other than being half of the society, we also control another half, who are our children. And so you cannot wish away that sector. And that is very important to ECOWAS. It's important to gender and CSOs, and it's important to the legislature.
Okay, I just quickly want to know your take on rape in about a minute or two as we start to wrap things up. Rape in general, you've seen the campaign recently about rape and the push for new laws about rape. What's your take on this?
Rape is, when I was growing up, we had smatterings of rape. It wasn't as serious as what we're having now. I do not know what could have pushed us into this. And I believe we must not go the way of India, because that is obnoxious, it's unacceptable, it's unheard of. As parents, as children, as people who believe in equality. And rape is what I believe should carry a maximum penalty. When it carries the maximum penalty, we must now try it out. By the time we try it out and people know we mean business, then people will stop doing that. I mean, why should you go through it? And why should you rape little children? That is particularly painful. And I think it's sacrilege, it's against the will of God, it's against the will of humans, and it's against everything that we all preach in all religions. And I believe the maximum penalty is what we need to be able to come to terms with rape.
Well, thank you very much, Senator Biodun Olujimi, for joining us this morning on The Morning Show. Thank you very much indeed for your time and insights.